today I am here in the classroom of Mrs. Lorene Irvin. Mrs. Irving is a master teacher with over 30 years of experience in reaching little ones, and I wanted to go to her with some of those serious behavior interventions, those situations where as a new teacher, as a newbie, you just don't know what to do. And so we're going to tap into her wisdom and her expertise and find out what to do in those situations as a newbie where you just don't know what to do in terms of behavior.
What to do if you ask a child to do something, like come to the floor or be engaged with the other children, and he or she kind of folds their arms and they're obstinate and they refuse to do it. You can um, ask them nicely, and if they do not come, they can just stay where they are, and you go right ahead with your lesson. Most times the children want to be engaged with the other children, so when you see them doing the right thing or making better choices, you can call them over and have them involved. If there's another adult there, you can always have the other adult kind of walk them over and sit next to them. And then with all of this that's going on, and when everything is over, perhaps there can be a discussion to ask them why they did not want to come over. And there might be something valid there that you really need to listen to.
All right, well, this is one of those situations that I certainly dealt with as a new teacher. And you say something to a kid, and they say something smart back to kind of try to get your attention and get a rise out of the class. And just as a new teacher, it can be interesting because you don't quite know what to do. It's, do you engage them? Do you pull them to the side? Do you stop instruction? What do you do? So it's kind of one of those tricky situations I wanted to bring to the master teacher and see what your suggestion would be.
It just depends on what exactly it is. Sometimes you can ignore it and just keep going. If they're trying to get attention and trying to get attention from the other children, that could be a problem. Again, I say ignore it and try not to take away from learning time. If you can, when all of that is done, then maybe you can have a one-on-one and you can say exactly how you feel, or do one of those iMessages and say, well, whoever the person is, I really don't like it when you do that. And sometimes just that little time for them to explain and for you to say how you feel will make a difference.
Do you think that it undermines in any way kind of the respect of the other kids for you, though, if they kind of see that back and forth, or they see that interaction, or they saw that person be rude or disrespectful to you and you don't say anything back? In other words, they don't see that consequence, or they don't see what happens as a follow-up to that behavior. Can that cause other behaviors to be triggered, or cause them to think, oh, let me try to get away with it now? What do you think?
You don't want to be confrontational, and you don't want to take it personal,
right?
Because that only magnifies the problem. But if you downplay it and let them know what is important, them learning, I think that most children, or I think most of the children will adhere to what the expectations are. Because you have those children sometimes that will try it. Even the little ones will try it. But if you act like it's a big thing, they'll continue it. But if you ignore it and try to get through it at that particular time, maybe it can be addressed later. That's happened. I had a student last year, didn't know he had been in certain situations where he was throwing chairs and doing all kinds of things, but he was placed in my classroom, me not having the knowledge. I had to get to know this baby. And this year, I had him all last year, and this year he withdrew. He's now in second grade at another school. He still calls. Right now, that little fellow is at another school, and he still calls. In the room, he never, ever threw a chair. but he had those periods where he did not want to cooperate. I had to give him a journal. Didn't know that his father was terminal. Didn't know that he was giving his mom such a hard time. But everyone marveled at how he had made a change. And I think a lot of times if we address it or we try to battle back and forth, it only makes the problem worse. And you have to remember, they are, or he or she is the child.
Right.
You are the adult.
Right.
I just have to say, because some things that might work with one child may not work with the other.
Right.
So he just guides you.
So there was a little boy, I remember the first year I was teaching that you had that was just really disruptive in terms of behavior. I mean, to the point where you literally, if you tried to ignore him, it just got worse. Like, and you literally had to stop teaching to kind of deal with them. What do you do in those situations? You don't want to take away from learning time. You don't want to draw attention to something ugly, but the truth is it is ugly sometimes. So can you talk about what to do when you get to that case that's just on the scale, he's all the way on the other end, and just kind of how you pull him in while you still have students in there?
First of all, you have to really analyze what's going on. If it's a danger, then you want to get the other children away from him, because that has happened. Extremely disruptive behavior where tables are thrown, chairs are turned over, profanity being used. So you want to explain it to the children as you are escorting them out or buzzing or calling for help, because that is serious. And yes, you have to stop teaching for that. Hopefully there will be support in your particular institution where someone will come right away, because that's needed. That's a detriment to you. That's a detriment, most importantly, to the children. After that is done and you write up, do all the write-ups, then assistance needs to be sought from someone to help this child deal with whatever is going on. That has happened. I had the baby is now in middle school, and he's in a school, he's at an alternative school. He had serious issues. Even when he was with me, no, I think he was in first grade, something happened, he said something, and we had to take him to a facility. So something was going on, and most times when this occurs, it's something going on serious. I keep in touch with him still. I also taught his sister, and I had his cousin. So I'm still in the family.
Okay, this is something I thought we would do, and I thought it would bring a smile to your face because I can only imagine what you'll say. Like, what to do when your kids are angels, when it's just you and them. But if a principal or someone decides to come in the room, it's like, the halo comes off and something else comes on, and they just lose it for a few minutes. So can you talk about what your approach would be to correct that particular situation? Like, they're fine with you, but just they decide they want to test limits whenever a visitor or principal or assistant principal or whatever comes into the room.
Well, that happens, and what you have to be and what you have to do is do the same thing that you would do if no one was in there. They have to know that you're not going to change, that the expectations are still the same, that consequences are still the same, and that you will take care of it. And once they see that, you won't have that problem anymore. Yeah, you just don't change. I remember my first year here, the little boy was in the classroom, the principal came in to observe, And I don't know why he took his coat and put it on his head. I was over there assessing a child, so I looked up. I saw that he'd done it, so I kept doing what I was doing. The principal was sitting there. She didn't do anything else. So when I finished testing the one baby, I went over and talked to the one that put the coat on his head. And I think I must have said, now you know better than this. I said it very, very quietly. He put his coat away and went back to doing what he was supposed to be doing. But you shouldn't change. You should be exactly who you are when they're in there and when they're not. Because children know that. Even when parents come around, they know if there's a change in your manner of discipline or in what you expect. And I've had to stop children sometimes right there with parents, right there with supervisors, and say, let's check ourselves. But you have to let them know what the expectation is. And hopefully you have an understanding.
All right, so you have a baby that has a complete meltdown while you're in the middle of teaching your lesson, and probably there's a principal or somebody sitting there observing too. Do you keep teaching? Do you address the child? Do you pull them aside? What do you do? I mean, it's not like something you can sweep under the table. It's a full-blown crying, snot flying, tissue flying fit. How do you handle it? What do you do?
It depends on exactly what kind of meltdown. Just what kind of meltdown it is. Is it an aggressive one, where someone may be hurt, or if it's just a crying one? If it's an aggressive one, then I would try to remove the children from.
Um, a student has a complete meltdown while you're in the middle of teaching a lesson. Do you keep on teaching? It depends on what kind it is. If it's an aggressive one where arms are flailing and feet are going, then fine. If it's just crying, um, maybe whimpering, or saying something, because I'm thinking of two incidences where this has happened. One of them, we had to remove the baby and have them sit at the table until they calmed down. I had a paraprofessional, so she stayed there and kind of took care of them, and I continued with the lesson. If you're by yourself, a lot of times I've held them and continued to teach. And most times they kind of quiet down. After that occurs, you need to have conversation. You need to know what they were thinking about, to see if you can help them in any way. It just depends on the child. I would not argue with them. I would not try to force them to do something that you know that they're not going to do, something that would cause a confrontation. But it would be handled one way or another, but not in a punitive way.
Good.
Okay? A new student is misbehaving on a regular basis, and you have other students in the classroom who normally do not misbehave, and they're watching him and beginning to imitate the new student's behavior. That happens a lot, but you have to let the children know what the expectations are. Still, especially the student who is misbehaving, you talk to the children, try to get them or encourage them to be understanding because he's new. That has happened. I had a little boy that just came to the class and he's pushing people and he's touching them and doing those kinds of things. They've learned through social emotional learning that we ignore it. So in the classroom, he's not doing it, but he's doing it in the specials classes that he's going to. So that really works, to have the children, to talk to them, to say to the children, I need your help. He really doesn't understand our rules right now. We have to help him. And you'd be surprised at how much the children want to help someone else. One of the babies in the class now said to me, she said, Mrs. Irvin, do you want me to go and talk to him? And I think that is probably one of the best things, having the children to say something to him. He's getting better, still has a ways to go though. Some type of, something has to be put in place, and everyone needs to be involved, the administration, the classroom teacher, the counselor, and the parents especially. The behavior needs to be communicated. There have been times that I've asked parents to come and sit in, or even I have asked them for their help in letting me know what I can do to help this baby. If he still keeps acting up, a referral needs to be made. Something needs to be done to see if we can help what's going on, because it could be something chemical, something severely emotional. If he's acting up and nothing is working, then everyone must be on board to get the support that this child needs.
I wanted to ask you what you would do in a certain situation. I remember my first year teaching, there was a situation where the teacher called home to the parent to tell them what was going on with the student.
Mm-hmm.
The student basically double-dog dared the teacher to call home because she knew what would happen. And sure enough, the teacher called home, and the parent cursed the teacher out for calling and said that there's no way my kid could have done that. So how would you handle that situation?
That is kind of like happened in a way where someone said to me, they don't act like that at home. And I just kept calling and I kept saying, but it is happening at school. Please come and observe. Please let me know what you do to discourage this kind of behavior. And a lot of times when parents know that you're on board and you want to see a difference and you're calling, because I have called and I've had parents tell me that I was wrong in my assessment, but you have to keep calling.
Okay.
And it has to be documented that you called. And you have to have as many conferences as you can and record everything that happens. Because 9 times out of 10, this is not an isolated event. Most times they know, but they might be in denial.
Right.
So if a child is misbehaving and going to the principal's office and getting into trouble, he's not learning.
Right. That's true. So, Mrs. Irvin, this is that situation where, you know, your class is the one that nobody wants to sub in, and it's just bad. Your class has a reputation for having the worst behaving kids in the school or in the grade level. And hopefully this won't be any of my newbies out there, but in the case that it is, kind of where should they start? What do they do? How do they fix it?
Well, you establish your expectations. You model what you want. If you want someone to talk kind to you, then you must do it. And even if the situation is, and you have lots of them, because this has happened before. As a matter of fact, I think I had a principal that purposely placed several babies in the room, and they had all had a reputation of, having difficulties. I contacted parents. I had a reward system, consequences. Things started to change, but it was very, very slow. You have to be consistent with every last one of them. You can't do something one time for a behavior and not do it the next time. I think it was James Dobson that says it takes a while to You have to be consistent. What your expectations are, you have to expect. And you have to let them know that that's what you're looking for. And then just talk to them and give them scenarios, letting them know that you're part of a family, you're part of a community. You have your part to do the right thing, and let them know how you feel. I don't feel very happy when you go to someone else's class or the teacher, a sub is in, and I get this report. It really makes me sad. And what you're doing is establishing a community where they know you have feelings too. I'm not going to fuss at them, but there will be consequences, especially if those things keep happening. And then, if you get positive things, no matter how small, accent it, accentuate it, let them know that someone said that this person did. Like today, when you said, that encourages others, and you don't have to say anything negative to the others.
Right.
Okay. This has happened, and it's almost goes back to children grow up to be what they've known. And it was just like last night. I was at the store, and it was a baby that was about 2 or 3 years old. The mother gave the baby a direction, and there were 2 profane words in her direction. So that's what they learn. Children grow up. They learn what they see. So you want to, it's going to take a while to change it, but you talk to them, and they'll tell you where they heard the bad words from. My mama said it, or my daddy said it, and you just politely say, well, sweetie, we don't do it here.
Right.
We just can't do it here. It's not nice, and it doesn't make your teacher happy and some of your classmates. With time, and you keep giving them the praise when you see it leaving, after a while, you'll change the habit. They'll go home and say something to their parent. Then the parent will say something, well, Mrs. Irvin doesn't live here, because that has happened, but we do live here together at school. And I said, I know, baby, I know, but Mrs. Irvin needs you to do this here, because it's just not acceptable.
Right.
You don't call them, or you just don't. What can I say? You don't give anger and expect for it not to be given back. You don't give words like that and expect for them not to come back. But if you can kind of like change it and model it and let them see how kind words, kind actions beget kind words and kind actions. And it's not going to change because they're in that environment, but they can really change for you. And I've seen that happen. They're a different child, and parents have said they're different when they're at school with you. You have to let them know that you love them, that you're there for them, and that you want them to be the best that they can be. Okay. One of your students is caught stealing, and or from someone else. And when you confront them, they deny it. Most times they will. But if you get that thing, or if you get that level of respect, I've actually had children say that they did. So we discuss why that's not right, because you don't want anyone to do that to you.
Right.
You still have some that will take, because I think they have been accustomed to doing it when they go places with their parents. So you just keep watch. But I remember one incident where an older child stole my phone. And I knew that she had stolen it because she took some other things from the classroom, okay, and she shared them with someone else. She denied it forever. Then the following year, and I think this baby was in 4th grade, the following year when she was in 5th grade, when I saw her, I still hugged her. When I saw her, I smiled. And she came on her own and admitted a year later that she had stolen. And I think that was a lesson learned. I'm hoping that it was her conscience. I'm hoping that a change was made because she was on a road that she did not need to be on. So love solves a lot. Caring solves a lot. Understanding solves a lot. And we just have to be cognizant of the children that we teach and really get to know them. And like I'm going back to the word currency, find out what they value and try to tap in on that and let them know that they're beautiful, that they're smart, that they are somebody, and that they can do anything they want to if they put their mind to it.
So what do you do when the video's over but you still need more information? That's easy. Introducing Newbie, a resource for new and developing teachers. This is the book that I wish that I had during my first few years in the classroom, and it's jam-packed with all of the information that people won't tell you but that you need to know. Imagine information in one place on how to develop effective lesson plans, complete with lesson planning templates, samples, and examples that you can use right away. But not only that, Newbie also has information on specific behavior management strategies that you can put into place right away. And it has lots of other helpful information, including information you won't find anywhere else, like how to develop an ideal class culture, or information on organization and on time management, something that is really key during your first few years on the job. But supplies are limited, so take advantage of this opportunity and order now. Your kids will sure be glad that you did.